So I want to put a video together of just kind of putting all the conic section pieces together, just bringing it and kind of just making sense of it. Okay, and so there's a lot of pieces, a lot of little things, especially with the focus and the directrix. And remember that hyperbolas and ellipses don't have um, a directrix, but let's check. Let's go into, and let me share my screen with you and go from there. Okay, so um, let's say we have the equation like y equals 2x plus 3. Okay, this equation is fairly simple, right? We know that, okay, well, if it's in a linear, it's a linear equation. Why? Because first of all, we have two variables and they're both to the first power. And so when the highest power is just 1, okay, then we know it's a linear equation, okay? If an equation is like x equals 3, remember too that this is also a linear equation, right? It only has one variable. And remember, this is going to be a vertical line, okay, at 3. Okay, and then I don't want to spend too much time, but let's say y equals -2. Again, this is going to be a horizontal line at -2. So this has the slope, right? This is the y-intercept, so on and so forth. Okay, and then last semester or Algebra 2A, you kind of learned quadratics. And quadratics, remember we talked about factoring, we talked about completing the square, we talked about square roots, the quadratic formula, and what it means to solve an equation, a quadratic equation. So let's just say like y equals like 2x squared plus 5x plus 6 or something like that, right? And the way to solve this is, let's just say you have an equation, this is a parabola, right? Wherever the parabola hits the x-axis is are the solutions to the quadratic equation. Okay, and how do you get these x-intercepts? Well, again, you could use the factoring method, you could use the quadratic formula, you could use completing the square, so on and so forth. Okay, so there are different ways of solving for quadratics. Okay, now we have a situation where we have, let's say the y is squared, right? And the x is to the first power. Remember in a few weeks back, right, that if the x is squared, the parabola is going to either go up or the parabola is either going to go down. And if the y is squared, it's going to be either going to the right, pointing to the right, or pointing to the left. Okay? And then you have an ellipse, okay, which is pretty much just an oval, right? Like pretty much an egg going this way, or it's going this way, right? And it's just a stretched out circle. And a hyperbola is pretty much a hyperparabola, right? Where there's two parabolas in the same graph. Okay, so how do we determine then if you look at the equation, how do you determine which is which? And then what form do we put it in? Okay, so let's say you're given an equation like x squared plus y squared is equal to like 36. Okay, well, notice a few things. One, that both the x and the y are squared. Okay, and so if it's squared, right? Okay, well, what happens here? Well, we know that it's either going to be a hyperbola, it's going to be an ellipse, or it's going to be a circle. It's going to be one of those three options. Well, in this case, because the squared terms are separated by a plus sign, okay, and there's no denominator here, okay, it's going to be a circle. Okay, and remember this, you get the square root of this, that will be the radius of the circle. Okay, if I have x squared plus, let's say, y squared over, let's say, 16 and 9 equals 1, remember that this is the standard form for an ellipse, right? The x is the major axis in this case, right? Okay, and then remember the center of the ellipse is 0, 0 because there's no h and k. Whereas let's say if this was x minus 2 squared over 16 plus y minus 3 squared over 9 equals 1, right? If you were to graph this here, okay, and again, I'm just kind of reviewing this a little bit, okay? You would start at 2, and 3, right? Because the h and k are 2 and 3, and then you'd get the square root of 16, which is 4. And since this is the major axis right here, you would go 4 to the right and 4 to the left, right? And it would be an ellipse going this way. And then you would go 3 up, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. And again, I'm just trying to go fast because there's so many other things to go through. Okay, and then if you had a minus sign in between here, right? Again, whichever is positive is the major axis. So in this case here, this is the positive variable. So we know that in a hyperbola, okay, you're gonna have to draw that box, right? Okay, and then it's gonna be going this way and this way. Okay, and so hopefully you learned that in the last lesson. Okay, now you're going to be given equations, okay? And what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to convert them into a standard form, and then for some of them you have to graph them, okay? So let's say this: we have negative x squared plus 10x plus y minus 21 is equal to 0. Okay. Well, here are a few things. One, notice that the x is squared, but the y isn't. And so if that's the case, right away, you should know that this is a parabola. Okay. All right. This is a parabola. All right. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the 10x squared to the other side, and I'm going to subtract the 10x. Sorry, I'm going to add the x squared and subtract the 10x to the other side. So I get y minus 21 is equal to x squared minus 10x. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to complete the square. Okay. And remember how to complete the square. You look at the b term here. The b is 10. You divide that by 2, which is 5, and then square it, which is 25. And if I add 25 to this side, I'm going to have to add 25 to this side as well. Okay. And when that happens, y minus or plus 4 is equal to x squared minus 10x plus 25. Now, why is that important? Well, look at this right here. If we factor this, y plus 4 is equal to x minus 5 squared. Okay. And so now looking at this right here, okay, you could tell what the h and k are, correct? You could also tell what the a is, right? So we know that the square term is with x, right? The h is the vertex of this is 5 and negative 4, and we know that it's going up, right? Okay, and then how do we know what the focus is? Remember, we do the focus with it's this term. It's a term in front, which is 1. 1 is equal to 1 over 4 p, right? Okay, and so p, you multiply by 4, so it'll be 4p is equal to 1. So you divide by 4. So p is equal to 1 over 4, right? And so let's graph this out. Okay, so if we were to graph this out, 5 negative 4 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, right? We know that it's pointing up, okay? And so I'm just going to point it up here this way somehow. You could plug in numbers if you want to graph this, but right now we just want to focus on the focus and the directrix, okay? So 1 over 4 means that's the distance between the vertex and the focus. So you go up 1 over 4, which is like right here, and you go down 1 over 4, which is right here, right? So let's just say, let's graph this, just to estimate the graph here. Okay, so here's the focus, and the directrix will be this horizontal line going this way. So the focus is, so if it's this right here, here's the vertex, you're going to add 1/4, right, to the x value of the vertex. So the x value is, or sorry, you're going to is that 5 negative. So you're going to add 1/4 to the y value of the vertex, right? Because you're going up. So it would be negative 4 plus 1 over 4, which is negative 3 3/4. And then So that's so the focus is negative, or it's positive 5 and negative 3 and 3/4. And directrix is below the vertex, right? So that's going to be 5 and then negative 4 and 1/4. Okay, or sorry, that's not the point, it's the point. So look at this right here. Remember, this is a line, so it's going to be y equals negative 4 and 1/4. This is this line. Sorry, I thought this was a point, but it's a line. Okay, let's do another problem here. Let's do all right, so we have negative 9x squared plus y squared minus 72x minus 153. Okay, equals 0. Okay, and so notice that we have both the x and the y's are squared, right? We have, even though we have the x here, we're looking at the highest power. So what we're going to do is we're going to group the x's with the x's and the y's and the y's, and then we're going to leave everything else and put it on the other side, the equal sign. Okay, so you want to keep the whatever variable is termed, you want to keep them together. Okay, so here we have negative 9x squared minus 72x, because again, we're trying to put them together, plus y, and I want to keep spaces because I'm going to complete the square, plus y squared is equal to, and I'm going to add the 153 to the other side. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on this portion first, and I'm going to complete the square here. You can't complete the square here because there's no other y term here. There's only an x term here. There's no other y to the single power term here. So this will just stay by itself. What I'm going to do is I'm going to factor out the negative 9, and it's going to be x squared minus 8x, right? And then from here, well, I'm going to complete the square. So 8 divided by 2, which is 4. 4 squared is 16. Okay, and then plus y squared is equal to 153. And naturally, you just add 16, but remember that this 16, it's in the parentheses of this negative 9. So what you need to do is you need to multiply the negative 9 and the 16, which is equal to negative 144. Okay, so I'm hoping that makes sense. Okay, so when you complete the square, remember, you look at this term, you look at the b term. Remember, if you look standard form, the b term, the b term is the number in front of the x to the first power. So that's 8. 8 divided by 2, which is 4. 4 squared is 16. Okay, and then I multiply these two to get the 144. So then if I do this, it would be negative 9, and to complete this, if I factor this, it would be x minus 4 to the second power plus y squared is equal to 153 minus 144 is 9. Then I divide by 9 everywhere. Okay, so that equals what? Negative, and then x minus 4 to the second power over 1, right? Because this is, they cancel out, plus y squared over 9 is equal to 1. Okay, so now what's the major axis here? It's the y term, because the x term is minus, and this is going to be a hyperbola. Okay, so let's graph this and try to go over, again, review of what you did last week, okay, is when you graph these. Okay, so here's the x, here's the y, or sorry, here's the x, this is the x, this is the y. And the center of this hyperbola, of the box that you're going to create, is 4 and 0. So it's going to be 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 0. So that's going to be the dot. Now along the x-axis, right, you're just going to go 1, right? So you're going to go 1 to the right. I'm going to try to choose a different color. Try to choose blue. 1 to the right and 1 to the left. And then with the y, you're going to go up 3 1, 2, 3. And you're gonna go down 3, 1, 2, 3. All right, and you can create this box right here, right? Okay, and then you're gonna draw asymptotes, right? So it's gonna look something like this, right? And it's gonna look something like this. To move it over a little bit. Okay. And again, since the y is the y is the the y is the major axis, right? Because that's the positive. It's going to be going up and down. So we're going to draw the hyperbolas pointing up this way and pointing down this way. Okay. All right. And so what we need to do is we also need to focus on what is the focus, okay? All right, and we need to get the C, and the C will determine, again, from the vertex where from the vertices of these hyperbolas where the focus lie, or the foci lie. So remember that for hyperbolas, it's b squared equals c squared minus a squared. Okay, and also remember that the a is the major axis. So this is the a squared right here. This is the b squared here. Okay, and then we'll get c. So b squared is 1, right? Is equal to c squared minus 9, right? So we add the 9. And so c squared is equal to 10, right? So you get the square root of 10. The square root of 10 is equal to approximately like 3.1. So from here, you're going to go up 3.1, 1, 2, 3. And then, or is it, sorry, you know what? It might be, it's just from the, is it from the center? Yeah, it's from the center, sorry. So here's the center, here's the 3.1. The 3.1 should be here and here. Okay, so from the center, you go up 3.1 and then you go down 3.1. Okay, I was mistaken. Sorry, what I did was I added 3.1 to the vertex. You're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to go 3.1 from the center. Okay? Hopefully that answers all your questions. Make sure you complete the square. If you have any questions, again, please let me know. Have a good day.